yourself a cold one.
They strike 'em, huh?
And listen to Ross Tucker break down the top college prospects on another tasty edition of The College Draft.
Yeah, it's Daddy Soda time here on the College Draft Podcast presented by DraftKings. The crown is yours. It's kind of a sad day, sad but also happy day, I guess. This is the end of our critically acclaimed draft series where we go through every single draft pick for every team. And probably my favorite part is find out about Emory's 2 or 3 favorite undrafted free agents on each team. So today, last but certainly not least, we've got the AFC West. Very much looking forward to going through that with Emory. Broncos, Chiefs, Raiders, and Chargers. As a reminder, not only can you always listen to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast app you use, you can go back and listen to any division that you might have missed, any team you might have missed. It's all time-stamped, whether it's audio or you want to watch us, youtube.com/Ross Tucker NFL. That's where Emory kind of first made a name for himself. He started that football game plan page on YouTube, and it really took off. So check him out there at FBall Game Plan on Twitter. And then those of you that are loyal listeners, you know I'm a big fan of the draft guide. It is very, very valuable to have that and to be able to, you know, all these guys you heard about from OTAs and mini camps, now that they're over, you can find out scouting reports on them. And then telling you the Hall of Fame game will be here in like a month, and you'll be able to start watching these preseason games, and there's going to be guys popping that you don't know much about. Let me just tell you what doesn't work. Just Googling them. Just Googling the name. It's going to pull up their bio at Minnesota Duluth that tells you nothing about them as a prospect. It just tells you they were first team all conference. Guess what? They were all first team all conference. Okay? You need Emory's draft guide. Footballgameplan.com/2025 draft guide. I'm at Ross Tucker NFL on social. Certainly check out the other shows we've got for you. Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Fantasy Feast, Even Money, all very popular. But today, it's all, we're at Ross Tucker Pod on social as well. Before we get to the AFC West, Emory, we touched a little bit on the UFL last week since it was, you know, coming off their championship game where DC beat Michigan. What about the league that you're calling some games for that seems like a lot of fun? I'm curious. I don't know how much you know about how many Americans they can have and how much money they get paid, but I know you and I probably both know guys that played football in Europe for a couple years after college. Maybe not quite good enough to play in the NFL, but they could play for money. Or I read a book one time, Playing for Pizza, which was awesome. I love it. I mean, I was talking to this guy. He works at Davidson now, and he played over there for a couple years. I think it's great. It looks like on TV that league's a lot better than people think, watching some of the highlights that you repost on social, Emory.
Yeah, it's fun, man. It's the European League of Football. You can catch the games on DAZN, and they're fantastic, man. My next game is next week on the 29th, Cologne Centurions and the Paris Musketeers. And Paris is being coached by Jack Del Rio. So, you know, it's a fun league, 16 teams. And an article came out a couple of weeks ago about them now having more investors, which will now probably end up leading to a London expansion franchise. Everyone's been talking about bringing back the London Monarchs and stuff like that. So that could potentially come down the pike. They want to get to 24 teams, but you can only have, what I love about this, Ross, is that you only have 4 Americans on the team, 4 non-Euro players, and only 2 Americans can be on the field at the same time on either side of the ball. So so what we're watching when you're seeing those clips from the ELF is a true homegrown league. So if I'm calling a Nordic Storm game, those players, but 90% of those players are from Denmark. You know what I'm saying? So you're getting a true gauge. If a Madrid Bravos game I'm calling, 90% of those players are from Spain are from, the European countries. So that's the cool part about it. And it shows you how quickly the game has become global, has grown over in Europe. Because we remember NFL Europe, they used to always specify, oh, this is a national player, and they weren't quite up to speed. They primarily played special teams, but now we are at the point we have a full league that is essentially 90% national players, and they're playing really good competitive football. It's probably on par with, maybe NAIA Division III type quality. And that's coming from Mike Tomlin, who watches the game. He talked about it last year, how he's been watching, the European League of Football. And he's like, man, it's just some good football over there. And now we see more American coaches over there. So it's been fun to watch, man.
That's interesting. So like NAIA D3. I wasn't sure quite what level.
Because a lot of, and we know this, the difference in the skill players are the skill players, but the difference is along the line of scrimmage. And certain teams, are better suited to play like the Vienna Vikings. When you look at their Austrian offensive line, it's like, my goodness, man, they legitimately look like a UFL team. But then you go to maybe Cologne, and they may not have the same O-line, D-line. The Ryan Fire looks like a team that could compete in the UFL. So that's how you want to see the consistency across the board come from the O-line, D-line. So that's why I said there's a Mount Union, and then there's a school that just started a program. That's how the difference in certain competition is.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Let's get to these AFC West. I see the highlight clips that you're reposting and hear your voice, Emory. I think it's awesome.
I'm learning how to do play-by-play too, so I'm getting those reps because it's a solo broadcast, so it's a unique experience for me.
Dude, that's invaluable. Where are most of the Americans? Quarterback and like running back or receiver?
Cornerback and quarterback.
Got it. That makes sense. All right, let's get to the Broncos. I think they surprised a lot of people, Emory, with each of their first two picks. I don't think a lot of people thought they would take a corner, Jahdae Barron out of Texas, with their first round pick.
Very good player, man, and someone that can help you out in the run game, play down in the slot. He attacks the ball really well. I thought this was a great pick for them. He was my number 5 field corner, so I had a pretty high grade on him, 79. And so between him and RJ Harvey, who's my number 7 running back, it's just like, the Broncos, Sean Payton was going to get him a running back hella high water, whether it was the first round or in the top of round 2, which he did. And Harvey is going to be someone that's going to fit in that backfield. The depth there now, even with them bringing in, I think, Dobbins, is going to be a good backfield now. Now they should be able to run the football better than they did last year. Savion Jones out of LSU, solid 3-4 defensive end, rotational piece. Pat Bryant, another big body wide receiver, kind of like what Sean Payton had in New Orleans with Lil Jordan Humphrey. He likes those big body receivers that he kind of put on the inside and kind of work against that safety. And lastly, getting Q Robinson in the draft, I thought was fantastic out of Alabama, edge rusher. I thought he had some quickness, some acceleration, some close, and showed comfort in dropping in cover. So I thought that was a really good pick for them. But undrafted free agents, where I thought they really knocked it out the park, Ross. Clay Webb, the guard/center out of Jacksonville State by way of Georgia, very good player, was my number 8 center in the class, and my number 6 offensive tackle, which I was shocked that he went undrafted just by the nature of the position and his school. Xavier Truss out of Georgia, like, how does he go undrafted? Big body tackle, maybe having an injury concern or whatever, but I had an 80 grade on him, so I thought that was a phenomenal pick. And Kendall Bowler out of Florida A&M, very good hula bowl, consistency over time at FAMU, played well in the games against FBS competition. This is another underrated pick for the Broncos.
And Xavier Truss was a big time recruit coming out of high school. 5-star, I want to say out of Rhode Island or something, which doesn't happen very often, that they get a 5-star, like 6'8", 330-pound monster. He's kind of up and down during his career at Georgia. Any thoughts on Caleb Lohner, the tight end from Utah?
The tight end from Utah, Lohner, I had nothing on, man. It's one of the rare it was, I would say, 7 players out the entire draft, Ross, that I had nothing on.
Wow.
And that was one of them.
Well, I wasn't going to ask you about
I know
Jeremy
that.
Crawshaw, the punter, that's for
Right.
sure. We don't do that. We don't do punter conversations. You got to really think the punter's good to draft him. I mean,
Facts.
really think that he's going to be your guy. Although the flip side is, then you get him for these a couple punters just recently got $4 million a year. So if you can get a punter in the 6th round and he's your guy for this whole rookie contract, you're saving a lot of money. But he's got to be your guy. Like he's got to be. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. All right. What about the Kansas City Chiefs? Their first round pick was a guy that, man, he's got tools. Josh Simmons, obviously, he had that bad leg injury. That's the concern that people had with him. The Chiefs are going to let him take his time coming back from that. But Josh Simmons, he looks exactly like what you're looking for at a left tackle. I did several of his games, and he was at San Diego State. And I remember looking at him, I was like, how is this guy at San Diego State? Like, what happened that he's like 6'6", 325, long arms, athletic? I was like, how did San Diego State get this guy?
And they usually play tight end at San Diego State when they look like him. You know what I'm saying? And you're like, oh, San Diego State has another good tight end. But Simmons was my number 5 offensive tackle, 80 grade. I will say this. I thought the Chiefs had a phenomenal draft. I know a lot of Chiefs fans are putting the feet to the fire for Brett Veach, the GM. This was one of his best drafts, in my opinion. And it started with Simmons, who, if healthy, is going to star. And at a position of need, even better for Kansas City because Simmons was phenomenal. They got my number 9 defensive tackle as well in Omar Norman Lott out of Tennessee, who I thought was just a solid workman-like player, but definitely popped up on film consistently enough to where he warranted that grade. Then you got Ashton Gillott. Is it Gelati or Gillott? But he was my number 3 edge out of Louisville. I thought he was one of the more underrated players in a class, Ross, that no one was talking about. And he goes to Kansas City, and I know it's patless, but everyone's been raving about how quick he is off the ball. You watch his game against SMU, is phenomenal, 79 grade. Number 3 boundary corner they got in Noel Williams out of Cal. We both love Noel Williams. Great ball skills, has ability as a return specialist if he wants to dabble there. But they needed to get better in the secondary, and they got better with Noel Williams. And my number 10 slot corner, Ross, slot receiver in Jalen Royals. I mean, you talk about a Deebo Samuel clone in terms of thickness and how he does after the catch and how physical he is. And he goes to Kansas City. I mean, this is, again, they're checking boxes. And my number 8 inside linebacker and Jeffrey Bossa, I thought he had a phenomenal week at the Senior Bowl. No surprise that he goes there. And they picked up a running back as well in Rashad Smith out of SMU. Former receiver, turned running back this year. Still plays like a receiver playing running back. But as he gets more reps, this is going to be somebody in week 9. We're like, man, how the hell they let the Chiefs get another playmaker like this?
Don't go anywhere. Got to pay some bills real quick. Jack, I got it. My Labatt Blue cooler backpack came in from this amazing Buy Beer, Get Gear rewards.labattusa.com program. It is awesome. I mean, I've needed this my whole life. A cooler backpack, and you guys can get it with this Buy Beer, Get Gear promotion from Labatt. All you have to do is buy Labatt, which you're going to do anyway. Take a photo of your receipt, upload it to rewards.labattusa.com. Watch the points go up and then get incredible merch. Buy beer, get gear. Rewards.labattusa.com. There's a lot of value. I feel like that never used to be a thing. It used to be like running backs going to receiver. Now
Right.
it's receivers going to running back. But, you know, Tyrone Tracy had some success at Purdue and with the Giants last year. You have a guy like that. My guy Max Hurleman with the Steelers. You have a guy like that has receiver skills, but then you put him at running back. That is super tough for the linebackers to cover.
And
super tough.
It's a matchup nightmare. And going into their undrafted free agents, Ross, this is another area where they excel. They got more matchup nightmares. Brennan Stool out of Clemson was my number 1 flex tight end with an 80 grade. He is like a receiver out there, and that's an underrated pickup right there for them. Elijah Badger was my number 12 split end. Played running back, turn receiver, has kickoff return skills, physical player. He goes to Kansas City. And they got my number 10 combo safety. This guy was a tryout guy, Ross. Starred enough to where he got the contract. And as Major Williams out of Carson Newman Division II program, where he was, Ross, his freshman or his first season at Carson Newman, he averaged 32.9 yards a punt return, Ross.
Whoa.
Insane. That's not kickoff return. That's punt return. And then teams got smart. And then every other year he averaged, just a measly 20-something yards a punt return. Why are you kicking it to Major Williams? And so he is going to be a problem for the because he's also a very good defensive back too. Had a really good Hula Bowl as well.
Wow, that's a great stat. 33 yards a punt return.
It doesn't make sense, Ross.
Why were they still punting it to him that year at all? But that had to be a fun year to watch him on those, because you got to have several long ones to average 33. All right, what about the Raiders? They had a ton of picks, Emory. I mean a ton. It started with Ashton Genty, who we obviously talked about quite a bit on the show throughout the process. You and I share a brain. You're a running back connoisseur. We'd like to see him make a few guys miss a little bit more than he does, but still, obviously a fantastic tackle breaker, the likes of which we haven't seen in a long time. I like the Emmitt Smith comp for him. What about Jack Besh, the second rounder out of TCU, Emory?
He was my number 2 split in. So I had a number 1 running back 80 grade on Genty, 80 grade on Besh. Besh is going to be a phenomenal player for Geno Smith. He's going to be a consistent player. He always gets open. He's tough at the catch point. He's a very good player after the catch. And I'm glad he started to find his sea legs, because when we first saw him at LSU, it was like, this is going to be the next guy. And then he got hurt. And then, by the way, they had like a couple of future All-Pros and Neighbors and Jefferson, right? Those guys might be good, right? So he just kind of got lost in the shuffle and transferred to TCU and balled out there. Darian Porter, I don't care if he's, 25 years old. He's 6'3", runs 4.2, length and ball skills. Give me those guys 10 times out of 10 at cornerback. He was my number 6 field corner with a 79 grade. Charles Grant, outstanding player of William & Mary, along with Caleb Rogers. So they doubled down on really good tackles. Rogers I had a 76 grade on, and Grant I had a 78 grade on. But so they're right there. Grant was my 13th O tackle. Rogers was my 18th guy. But they got both of them. And that goes to build depth and talent. Grant has a little bit more upside coming from the FCS, but he dominated his level of competition. And Mike London does a phenomenal job in cultivating and coaching pro players at William & Mary. Then they get Dante Thornton, was my number 4 split in. 6'3", 6'4", or 6'5", I believe, with speed to burn, and plays that fast. And I thought he was very underrated throughout the process, but they got him where they got him. And another one of these guys is going to help out instantly on offense. J.J. Pegues, Tonka Hemingway, 2 defensive tackles, that they got. South Carolina for Hemingway, Pegues out of Ole Miss. I have a screen capture of a game I was watching when they played Florida at Ole Miss, and it was Pegues at quarterback with 2 D linemen in the backfield with him, and they were in I was like, I would have called timeout and be like, this is cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he got the first down, so he made one miss. So when you got, I remember at the combine, after the D-line workout, they had him running tight end drills too. So expect to see him on some offensive plays with Pete Carroll with the big jaw gum saying, I got you on the other side, because that's the type of athlete he is. And 2 FCS quarterbacks.
I love their next 2 picks. This reminds me of, I think we were talking last week about the Seahawks getting Torrey Horton and Ricky White. How about, you watch the national championship game, the FCS championship game. It's North Dakota State, Montana State, the 2 best quarterbacks that I knew about in FCS at least. Touchdown Tommy Mellott, Cam Miller. Truth be told, I was kind of rooting for Montana State to get over the hump and to win it. They weren't able to do it. Kudos North Dakota State, terrific program. But I feel like Brady has his hands on that, and he's like, I want both those guys. They're winners. They're ballers. Touchdown Tommy Mellott and Cam Miller, 2 picks apart, 213 and 215, Emory.
Yeah, because and Brady probably saw a lot of Julian Edelman and Tommy Millott. And so now he's making a convert to receiver. 4.3 speed, legitimate 4.3 speed. We saw how he plays that fast too. He's a problem trying to catch it. Cam Miller got significantly better this season. I love how he started the year going toe to toe with Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, and it looked like they had a chance to upset Colorado. But he carried it all the way throughout the season into the national championship. So you got winners, you got guys that played really well, and I was rooting for Montana State. First time since '84 they would have won the championship when the greatest movie of all time came out in '84, Breaking 2, The Electric Boogaloo. That's a long time ago, man. So and then Cody Lindenberg, my number 4 inside linebacker. I thought the Raiders had a phenomenal draft. Lindenberg has length, athleticism, kind of can go sideline to sideline, can drop back and cover as well. And as undrafted free agent, Mello Dotson, corner out of Kansas. You talked about him a lot. And Zachary Franklin out of Illinois by way of UTSA, wide receiver, had a really good college gridiron showcase. And Carter Runyon, keep an eye on him, Ross. A tight end out of Towson, called a lot of his games when they played Monmouth, and also had a really good college gridiron showcase and Shrine Bowl as well.
I like a lot of the guys they drafted. They were not afraid to go FCS either with Charles Grant in the 3rd round out of William & Mary. I mean, that's 3. When's the last time a team drafted 3 guys out of the FCS?
It's
I'm
like
all in on Tom Brady. Tom Brady knows what he's doing.
It's like I was the
FCS
GM.
guys.
It's like if I was a GM with the Raiders, like, give me all these small school guys.
Now we need more Ivy League guys, but at least he's getting FCS. At least he's close. All right. Last but not least, let's get to the Chargers. Go, Chargers, go. Omarion Hampton. A lot of people thought the Broncos might take him at pick 20. Instead, the Chargers scoop him up at 22, Emory.
And I think he's a foundational back, which means he's a starter. Kind of a little bit of DeMarco Murray in his game. I like that. One cut downhill and just kind of just bursty type of a back. So I think he's going to fit in perfectly there. Trey Harris was my number. I had a 75 grade on Trey Harris out of Ole Miss, the wide receiver. Some people thought he was going to go maybe back in first round, but they got a good one there. Number 1 nose tackle, Jamari Caldwell. I'm surprised he fell this far. I thought he was one of the best ones along the defensive front in the class. They got him at a specific position of need because they couldn't stop the run last year. That's not going to be an issue this season. Kyle Kennard out of South Carolina, very good edge rusher, workman-like player. He was my number 7 edge. Keandre Lambert-Smith, a wide receiver out of Auburn, special teams dynamo. I think he's going to be a good one. I have him as an F receiver, which means he's going to play that tight split inside, sort of a big slot type guy. Aronde Gaston II. Jesus. Number 2 flex tight end. Here he is. That's the type of guy that usually goes in round 2. They got him where they got him. I think he's going to be, and he's going to help be that tight end that a Justin Herbert needs. That's a matchup problem. That's been the common theme here. Branson Taylor out of Pitt was my number 9 tackle. I had a 78 grade on him. I thought he was excellent on film when I was watching Pitt offense. And R.J. Mickens, another former Suns player, was my number 2 strong safety. Just consistently, you could tell he was coached, consistently a good player. You could tell he was well coached by his father and also at Clemson. And Trequezie Bridges out of Florida, solid combo safety. Can play either corner or safety depending on what you need. And when we talk about undrafted rookie free agents for the Chargers, Naz Jones out of Texas State, big body guy out there, underrated player on the inside. They got my number 2 slot corner and Nico Reed out of Oregon. I was surprised that him and his teammate Muhammad went undrafted. And Miles Purchase out of Iowa State was my number 5 slot corner. Another one of these guys that can really just go out there and just ball out, play smart, instinctive, attacks the ball. And I like Jordan Oladokin out of Bowling Green. Underrated player, I thought. Hula Bowl player. Solid coverage skills. Go watch the game against Penn State. I thought he played well there too.
You know, it is funny that they get Aronde Gadsden II, R.J. Mickens. They went for the guys with the pedigree. The Eagles did that too with Drew Kendall, Miles Hinton. You know, get the guys who have that pedigree. And it's wild too, just to see how many of these guys transfer from other places. Keandre Lambert-Smith was like Penn State's best receiver.
Yeah.
And then he left to go to Auburn. I'm not sure why, but Penn State really could have used him last year.
And I'll be remiss if I didn't mention DJ Uiagalelei as an undrafted free agent, just to say how far one falls from where they were projected to, where they ended up, and seeing how well he's going to do in the preseason is going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. He seems like a good dude. He just hasn't really put it together. I'm excited for what we're putting together over the next, 5 or 6 weeks. We're going to start to really dive into the 2025 college football season, the 2026 NFL draft prospects. So we're going to get you guys ahead of the game. Make sure you're subscribed, either audio or youtube.com/RossTuckerNFL. Turn the notifications on so you're the first one to know Emory's breakdown of the top prospects in the Big Ten and the ACC. We're getting it going starting next week. Other than that, the keg is kicked. We are all tapped out.
Thanks for tuning in to College Draft. Make sure to also check out the Ross Tucker Football Podcast, Even Money, and Fantasy Feast, all on the DraftKings Network, YouTube, or subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform.